Welcome to He Did This to Me, a sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Mets, Knicks, and Jets fans. My name is Nick, aka Goody, and with me is my old man, aka the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. USA men's basketball. After being down as much as 17 points, trailing by 13 to start the fourth quarter, Team USA, led by Steph Curry, made a thrilling comeback against Serbia to win 95-91 and advance to the gold medal game against France on their home turf. Steph has his best game as an Olympian, pours in 36, 17 in the first quarter, adds 8 rebounds, and Bron had a triple-double, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. Embiid added 19 as well, including 7 straight in the fourth. Talk to me, big guy. What do you think about Team USA getting a little bit of a scare, but still being able to advance to that gold medal game?
Look, I mean, they pulled it out and everything. Clearly, anytime the U.S. doesn't win handily, you feel like, these guys are fooling themselves or whatever. But, Serbia's a good team. They've got a couple of really good, obviously, good players on there, Bogdanovic and Jokic, obviously, who are playing really well. I happened to watch the whole second half at work because we found out about it. The market was closed, so guys put it on their computers on the trading desk, and everybody was watching it. And guys were getting pretty nervous. A couple guys were bailing early fourth quarter. Oh, they're going to lose. They're going to lose. I always felt like they were going to come back and win, because we're U.S. and it's basketball. We should win. But yeah, no, Steph was amazing. Steph was tough because KD couldn't seem to hit a big shot. He wasn't coming through. LeBron played well as a facilitator. Hey, Embiid, got to give him credit. He made some big shots. There's no doubt. But I also have to say with Embiid, he made some really foolish fouls, and he was getting crushed on the rebounds. I mean, we were
Killed on the
screaming
glass.
about it. Everybody on the trading desk was like, what is with this guy? Why are all of the balls just like whizzing by him? I mean, yeah, no, that wasn't a good look. So anyway, we won. Happy to see it. Heard again that Jason Tatum didn't play 1 minute. Don't know what that's all about. But hey, we won. So there you go.
Well, it's different when you talk about the minutes, when it's a game that is so closely contested like this, and we were down by, I think we were down by 11 with like 7 and change to go. At that point, you gotta think that Kerr is just doing whatever he can to win the game. He's not
Right.
worried about anybody's minutes, and he didn't
No.
feel like Tatum could, be one of the guys that contributed. I still have a hard time understanding that for a guy who was the second best player in
That's what I'm
Tokyo
saying, right?
just 3 years ago, and many people consider him to be a top 5 player in the NBA. I still don't think there's anything that James White can do on a floor that he can't do.
Derek
I
White.
understand Derek White. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't think there's
Mhm.
anything on the floor that he does that Tatum can't do. I don't care if there's certain things that as a role player he does more often. Tatum can do those things. He just is not necessarily asked to when he plays because he's asked to do those superstar things. So it's
Right.
very weird for me. Embiid, just like you said, and shout out to my boy Danny who was texting me. My boy, my boy Baum who was texting me during the game. If something happens with the Knicks, everybody reaches out to me. If something happens that's anti-Embiid, everybody reaches out to me because they know that I'm in that camp. And yeah, at one point he did score 7 straight points, and that was really one of the biggest stretches. But as you said, the offensive rebounds that Serbia was able to get, and not only that, Dad,
Unbelievable.
it wasn't just that they were getting offensive rebounds. The fact that they didn't have him guarding Joker. So
Right.
clearly they felt like Braun was the better matchup to guard Joker. If you're not even guarding Joker, you have to swallow all of the rebounds.
All
It's just really hard to understand how he wasn't getting some of those boards. But yeah, definitely had some big buckets. I thought Serbia, and I heard people saying that this might be the case in the previous matchups against the US, and even in some of the matchups that they had leading up to this game, that they were holding back a little bit and that they
Mm.
weren't showing every wrinkle that they had because they knew that they were going to have to, have everything go their way to be able to
Hey,
win.
that makes
And
sense.
it makes sense. And, Joker had 17 points, 11 rebounds. No, 17 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if the 11 or the 5 was rebounds or assists, but Joker played well. He didn't dominate down the stretch. I thought there were some times where he seemed like I would have hoped he had been a little bit more aggressive. If I'm somebody in Serbia's camp, it was 11 assists and 5 rebounds for Joker to add to the 17 points. But
Mm.
yeah, Bogdanovich, he had a big 20 points, made some big shots throughout the entire game. We
He
know that
played
guy
well.
is a legit NBA player.
Yeah, he is.
But the thing is that, it was just a tale of three quarters. They hit 15 threes in the first three quarters and then hit zero. At one point, they were 14 of 28, shooting 50% from behind the arc. And then in the fourth quarter, they go cold and the U.S. just storms back. I actually saw a stat earlier that they led for 35 minutes and 12 seconds of the 40 minutes played. That's nearly
Wow.
90% of the
They had
game.
to be so distressed.
So distressed, and down the stretch, they start missing a couple shots. The U.S. is getting out and running, and a couple of those were wide open, and they just weren't able to knock them down. The U.S. gets out and runs. LeBron with two great finishes on the fast break. One lefty, just
Yes.
that
Excellent.
classic LeBron where he's just going full speed and is able to put it up soft and put
Soft.
it in at the end. And it's just, it seems like something that all these guys should be able to do, but yet no one's ever been able to do it like LeBron has. And this is, 20 plus years we've now seen him be great at that specifically. Yeah, I think it's great that they pulled it out. I'm not one of those people that feels like, oh, we should never even have a game that's close. Serbia is a legit team. They got a good coach. They have the best player in the world, in the last few years, in Joker, and a couple other guys who can get it done. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens this Saturday when they match up against France, a rematch of the gold medal game in Tokyo 3 years ago, which the U.S. won 87-82.
Yeah, no, it'll be exciting. See Wemby out there against these guys. It's going to be really. It should be a good game. Who knows? Maybe your boy Frank Ntilikina goes off for like 30. You never know. Frankie
30.
French.
I did see him hit a three today, but I don't think he's ever scored
We
30
had how
points in
much?
a game. He hit a three today. I saw that at
Oh,
some point earlier. I was watching, I was going back and forth
hmm,
between work and trying to catch some of that first game, but I did see that game. That game was close, and France was actually behind for quite a while. And then in the fourth quarter, they just totally overwhelmed Germany. As I've said before, that guy Schroeder, he's a different player in the Olympics, man.
yeah,
He doesn't even look like the same guy. He's so much better than he is when he
really.
plays in the NBA.
I've
And
always
Wemby,
liked him, but you're right. He's not that as good in the NBA.
you've
Hey,
always
listen,
liked him,
us. I
really?
do like him. I think he's a decent player, but
You
he
don't like
doesn't
his
know.
look. You don't,
No, no,
and
no, no.
especially when
I
he had
said
that.
fabulous. I think it looks stupid, but I always call him fabulous. But anyway, I wouldn't care if he played for us and he played well. I could deal with him. I like him. I'd rather him than campaign. How about
Yeah,
that? One aside that I found out today, interesting tidbit. You know, this guy Bogdanovich was drafted by the Suns, and they stashed him in the Euro League, like how we did Jokovitis. But then somebody else bought his rights, and here you go.
there you go. Yeah,
So hopefully
yeah.
the same doesn't happen with Jokovitis.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope he doesn't end up being somebody who's quite that good. Which we still haven't lost him somehow. I, I
No, no,
still,
no, no,
I still don't even quite understand exactly how all that works. Like, I
no way.
get it. Like, I don't understand why no NBA. He just seems like an NBA basketball player to me. After watching him in the summer league this past year, it seems like some NBA team should be coming to him and saying like, "Hey, let's go." But instead, he's playing for some Israeli team.
Israeli team.
Yeah, hey,
Maybe he's
hopefully.
happier over there. I don't know.
No,
I
I
don't
mean
know.
he
No,
he
no. He
came and
wants to
played in
play in the
summer league. He
NBA.
clearly wants to play in the NBA,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah.
You're
So I
right.
mean, we'll see what ends up happening if we're ever able to get him on the roster or not. But we're pretty deep at guard currently, and
Hmm.
yeah, man. The thing about the U.S. and France in this final game, they cannot do the same thing they did in this game because that fourth quarter, now the crowd is going bananas.
Oh yeah.
Okay. You got the home team, and that's what happened today. If you watch the game against Germany in the fourth quarter, they got the crowd behind them. Wimby is, mean mugging cats. He's blocking shots. He's dunking on people and whatnot. I mean, that guy's his skill level continues to just absolutely amaze.
Right.
Some of the things I saw him do today, just where at one point he gets bumped and he's not even looking at the rim and he throws it up off the glass for a bucket. He's just a beast, man. He's
Yeah.
just
He's unbelievable.
if that guy is able to be healthy, he truly will end up going down as one of the greatest players of all time. And
Yeah, you think.
But yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see what happens in this final game. It seems like we should be able to really dominate them at the guards. You know, they have this guy Cormier on their team who they've inserted into the starting lineup, and they've been playing a lot better. That's who they had into the starting lineup when they beat Canada, and he played pretty well again today. I'm fairly sure he had 14 points. They also have Fournier, who's another one of those guys, not quite on the level of Schroeder, but he's a much better player internationally than he is when he's in the actual league.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then obviously, they have Wemby, and they have Gobert up front. So again, US does seems like they would be the much deeper team, the more talented team, the more seasoned team. But we will see how this plays out on Saturday and who ends up bringing home the gold. Really, the other thing is that not only are they playing at home, but France is also playing with house money to a certain extent. Nobody expects them to win. So
Right.
if they get rolling and the crowd gets behind them, and now all the pressure starts to
Anything can
come
happen.
down on the US team, as we saw today, anything can happen.
That's right. Fact. So better be careful, boys. They need to start out strong and stay strong. Because, like you said, you don't need those guys getting confidence. That crowd, no, no. You better control that game from the outset.
Yeah, really cool to see Steph get like his signature Steph game moment. He,
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
he was fantastic today. Hit some big shots down the stretch. I heard in the post game they had to cut away from the audio of LeBron talking during the post game in the huddle. I heard him say something about fucking chef, and they cut away from made sure that they got away from that mic because yeah, they were all real hype for Steph. You could just see the emotion in Steph, and it's crazy to think like, look, the greatest shooter of all time, one of the greatest players of all time, in my opinion, the second most influential player in the history of the NBA. And this is his first time competing in the Olympics just due
Yeah.
to his injuries and bad timing and different things like that. So, him at this point of his career being able to, show out the way that he did today and hopefully bring home gold is an awesome story. And, for an all around supposed to be great guy and,
Hmm.
all the accolades that we just talked about, good to see. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
Dwayne Wade seemed like he calmed it down a little. He's toned it down a little
I
bit.
didn't really hear him today because, like I said, I was watching on a computer, so I didn't hear him
Yeah, I noticed that, and my guy Baum, he said the same thing. He has toned it down a little bit. I didn't hear any of those. I know him personally, and his pronouns are he and him. I didn't
talk.
hear any of those today, and yeah, I hopefully he continues. The thing is that I've always thought Dwayne Wade was like kind of corny to a certain extent, but at the same time, I love him as a ball player. I think he seems like he's a great dude overall. And so like I don't go into this wanting him to be bad, but yeah, he has not been my favorite thus far. But it's funny, like just listening to these guys as they go into the second act, and whether it be trying to be actually calling games or trying to be in the booth. I'm old enough now, especially when we're talking about former players, where I try to give them a little bit of grace because I've seen guys like Shaq, who was so terrible when he first got on TV, and
Hmm.
he, over time got better at it. And these guys have fantastic work ethic, all of them do, to be able
Right.
to get to where they are. So, I give Dwayne Wade a hard time, but he seems to have learned a little bit already, and hopefully he continues to do so because it makes sense for him to be the guy. Like a former USA player who's not that far removed should have some really good insight on what's going on out there.
Yeah, no, I mean he's a bright guy, and I think he will improve, obviously, over time. And but then again, part of it is just his style. I don't know if this is his definitive style, but he'll improve over time as he broadcasts more games. It's not easy, it's difficult what he's
If
doing.
you're feeling the content, or you think we are two loathsome, offensive brutes, and yet you can't look away, give us a thumbs up or a 5-star rating. Make sure you subscribe and or hit that notification button on YouTube or wherever you're listening. Simone Biles wrapped up her Olympic performance. She had a total of 3 golds and 1 silver to give her 7 medals, which ties her overall, which ties her with Shannon Miller for the most medals for an American gymnast in Olympic history. She was the oldest U.S. gymnast in 72 years. She continues to dominate and totally change the game. She has three different maneuvers that are named after her. What did you think of Biles and her overall performance, and where she sits as far as her legacy when it comes to the Olympics overall and specifically U.S. Gymnastics?
Well, she's clearly the greatest U.S. gymnast, right? I mean, I don't even know if that's in dispute at this point. Greatest female Olympian. I don't know where she ranks on medals because, like this woman Ledecky with the swimming, has put up some pretty astounding numbers. I don't think anybody's catching Phelps as far as overall amount of medals, correct? I don't think so. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, look, Nick, she's amazing. She got an injury early on with the ankle, and that didn't seem to slow her down at all, really, especially after a day or so. And she's an amazing athlete. Did I tell you that guys at work were disputing whether or not she could, because they're saying how high she could jump, whether or not oh, you and I were talking about that, whether or not she could dunk a basketball?
Yeah, you and I talked about this last week, and
A friend of mine made a good point. Spud Webb's a foot taller than her, and he could hardly dunk. He's a foot taller than her, Nick. He's 5'7", 5'8".
well, so
That's
last week
big.
we talked about this. I put out a reel about it. It got quite the quite the response, especially on Instagram. I think it got 23,000 views and like 150 likes, like 50 something comments. And a lot of people in the comments were talking about the bouncy floor. Some people were
Right.
disputing that bouncy floor and saying that it's more of a shock absorber and doesn't really give you that much bounce. There's a lot I don't know the answer as far as the floor is concerned, and I almost kind of don't want to know the answer because I want to just continue to live in a world where I see Simone Biles catching a oop and throwing it down on
Right. It would
somebody.
have to be an alley oop.
Because I mean,
Her
she's
hands.
small tiny hands, right? But I mean, Durant has said that he thinks if she caught a perfect oop, she could dunk. He actually, we put out that reel, and he put it out that same day. He would his opinion that she could dunk if she catches an oop. All I'm saying is that it's worth a conversation. There has to be some sort of like ABC like wide world of sports situation where we like get her on a court and see how close she can get. I don't know about the bouncy floor. I don't know, but I want to know. I want to see it.
Here's an interesting aside. Our friend of the show, Matt Burke, our guy's buddy, he has another buddy who has a daughter who's a gymnast. I believe she's in Paris right now.
Okay.
And he texted him. She's a somewhat short girl, 5 foot or less, saying, "Hey, can she dunk a basketball?" The dude laughed. And he's like, "No way, no way."
Okay, but she's
But
not
that's
Simone
her. She's
Biles.
not Simone Biles,
Right.
right?
She's not Simone.
But
I'm not saying that any of these guys. Listen, and all these girls, when you see them jump, and I shouldn't say girls, women. It used to be, I feel like when I was a kid, all these gymnasts were like,
17,
girls. They were teenagers at
right,
best. And
right,
now it seems like a lot more of them are older. Like
right.
as I said before, Biles being the oldest gymnast in 72 years. But they all, when they jump, it seems like it's crazy. But then when you actually see that, Simone Biles was close to 12 feet up in the air, it makes you start to wonder. And like I said, just somebody figure it out. The people want to know.
Bouncing floor.
72, 70, the oldest in 72 years, and there's rumors that she may want to come back and for
Yeah, I don't think
LA
that's
in
going
the
to
next.
happen. Come on.
I mean, Dad,
It's
how
been
much can she?
changing. It's changed a lot since I was young and everything. You're right. It was all young girls when I was young in the 70s and the 80s.
Mhm.
There was nobody in gymnastics over the age of 22. Okay? It was the same thing in tennis, though. Back then, a 17-year-old could come up and win like Wimbledon or something. This girl, American girl, Tracy Austin, back then, just blew everybody away at 17.
I remember
Not so
Michael
much
Chang. Michael
anymore.
Chang when he was
Right,
coming up, he
right.
just jumped on the scene when he was
For
super
whatever
young. I think
reason,
he won the
Nick,
French Open or some shit like
for
that.
whatever reason, like in the 90s, that all changed. You had players like Martina, all of these players, Agassi, all of these players played till they're much older and were
Steffi
very
Graf.
successful. Yes, were very successful. And that seems to have continued, as we see in gymnastics. So, I mean, how old is she going to be in 2028? I mean, come on, man. I feel like she could hurt herself out there. Jeez.
But the thing is that how much. How much can she
Going
fall?
out with your NFL husband. Chill out, relax.
She's 27 years old now, so that means she'd be 31. She'd be in her
Stop,
30s.
stop.
But Dad,
31 doing gymnastics.
how much can she fall off between now and then when she's so head and shoulders above the competition currently? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, you'd be surprised though. That catch up would be real quick with some of these young women out here. They come up there and smoke her, man. She shouldn't
I
do that. Your
I think
legacy's
all
too great.
those I think all those things apply, but when you talk about superior athletic talent, and don't forget Michael Phelps, like you said, the current, king of medals, he's got a total of 28 medals, 23 of
You know
those
what I'm
being
saying?
gold. Next person is Katie Ledecky with 14, Mark Spitz then goes 9, and then we get down to Carl Lewis, Jenny Thompson's, blah, 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 blah. Remember with Phelps, it was like, hey, his legacy was over. He had done it, and he came back for another games and dominated it again when nobody expected him to, and he was supposed to be too old. And remember, he came back and dominated once again. So, listen,
She does not. She does not need to be getting back out there all pudgy and shit in 4 years, Nick. No way.
she not. First of all, she ain't gonna be pudgy. She not gonna be pudgy. Okay, she ain't never gonna be pudgy. And I don't know, man. I think it would be an awesome story. Obviously, Biles and Jordan Childs, they bowed and honored Brazil's Rebecca
I saw that.
Andrade, who captured a gold in the floor exercise. Did you see that the defensive back for the Ravens? He came out and he commented and he said, "This is literally disgusting." About that picture of those two bowing to the
Why?
Brazilian.
Why were they so upset? Why was he so upset?
I guess he just didn't like it. He didn't like the fact that we lost, they lost, and that they were giving, they were
Props to her.
giving props to this other girl. I don't know exactly what it was. There's definitely been some backlash. I think even Michelle Obama had something to say about it. I just thought it was a weird thing to. He's very active on Twitter. He's always got something to say. This guy, okay,
Right,
and I just thought it was a weird thing to say. Like especially first of all, her dude is somebody who's like in your fraternity. You know what I mean? Like her
right.
man's another football player, but I mean neither here for even forget that part. Like, what about it exactly is disgusting? Why does this bother you so much?
I don't know
I
why
just
that
don't
offends.
get
I
it.
mean, I get it. Okay, we're all Americans and blah 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 and American pride and all that, but they were just giving homage to the girl. As I read an article about it, Simone Biles said they obviously they all know each other very well. This girl has given Simone Biles extreme props as the goat. You know what I'm
Of
saying? So
course.
they wanted to give her props. And also, too, they wanted to celebrate the fact that it was an all black podium in gymnastics, which has never happened. Never happened. So that's why they did it. I figured I figured it would cause some backlash, and hey, those who don't like it, get over it.
Listen, they've already lost. Them doing that doesn't change, where they are on the podium. Everything has already been decided at this point. And when it comes to the podium being all black, that was the other thing that I thought about immediately when I see this from, this black man who's got an issue with it and wants to call it disgusting. How about how beautiful it is that three women, all from African descent, I understand one is Brazilian and two are US, but if you know anything about history, you know that that was just a stop on the slave trade. And that's why, we have so many of them that look just like us. And you got three women who are clearly of African descent who are on that podium together and showing some type of unity. I just don't understand how that's something that could bother you in the slightest. I think this guy needs to shut the fuck up, honestly, in my opinion, and don't insert yourself into something that has nothing to do with you. And then, he makes that comment, and then he made some comments about like, y'all, I'm getting cooked right now. I think I just got cursed out in Brazilian or something like that. But he didn't even really
Portuguese,
import. But he didn't say Portuguese. He said Brazilian.
right? Exactly.
But and I'm like, yo, you didn't. At least if you're gonna say that, like, have like something behind it, some sort of context. Like, if not, then it almost seems like you just want to get some attention. And I guess he did. And we're giving it more because we're talking about it right now. I don't
Right.
know, man. I'm so glad that he's not somebody like he's not some guy on like the Jets or something like that, because it would really annoy me. And I just think it just overall makes him look like an asshole and makes him look kind of stupid, like he doesn't understand, the brevity, he doesn't understand like the moment, and he doesn't understand like what this really means and what it symbolizes.
Right. I mean, maybe he's just woefully uninformed, unfortunately. And clearly, to post on Twitter or any social media, you don't need to be informed. So that's what I assume is the case, right?
New York Mets currently 3-3 on their 11-game road trip, and they currently occupy the third and final wild card spot, a half game ahead of the Braves. The big guy luck has finally worn off. You had a really good streak of attending our team's games. And you were in the building last Saturday night in Anaheim and watched them lose by 1 run. Talk to me a little bit about how we're feeling about the Mets, and is there any cool anecdotes or any takeaways from that game that you saw in person?
It was the Mets. I feel are doing. Listen, we're not at that rip roaring pace, but for the rest of the season, like you and I have spoken about, they have to maintain. You have to maintain, and then at some point you have to go on like a 12-3 or 12-4 run. Okay, and you have to. When you're not doing that, you have to play 500 or at least no, well, I'd say 600 ball. Let's say, right? So if we don't do that, if we, right now I think we're maintaining. Obviously, this is the maintenance part. If we slip and we go 3-11, that's going to be the issue. We have to maintain and hope and wait for someone else to do that. I think if we maintain, we get in because I think these other teams are going to falter. I think we're getting some pitchers back, some relief pitchers back. I think this new guy Blackburn looks pretty good. He's been done pretty well his first couple starts. And Pete today is showing me a little something. I'm hoping we're getting a little resurgence in Pete. And hey, you know what? Lindor, he's cooled off quite a bit, but he showed up big last night. He's cooled off quite a bit since the All Star break, man. Since
Well,
the
he
All Star break, he's batting like 200.
Right, but he's not. It's a small sample size, and it's
Right.
like he's
It's
not going
18
to hit
games, 17, 18
340.
games.
Yeah, he's not going to hit 340. From
No,
the
all year. But you
June
know
through.
what? In a big spot last night, he was there, and that's what I need. That's what I need. J.D. Martinez getting some hits out there. You know what I'm saying? We need him to start rekindling and all that. As far as the game, it was okay. I mean, I will tell you that stadium. Talk about drab. I mean,
Hmm,
Anaheim Stadium. There's just nothing to it. There's nothing exciting about the stadium.
hmm.
There's nothing exciting in the halls when you're walking around. There's not a lot of great food options, and when you're sitting in your seats, it's just like it's a boring stadium. It's nothing that when you're and I was when we left, your mom and I, we were talking to another couple that was waiting on the train because we actually took the train up there from San Diego, which was absolutely beautiful, by the way, riding on the coaster,
Hmm.
and it just rode up the coast of San Diego of California, just stunning. But yeah, the stadium itself was boring as hell. I was surprised because I told you we went and bought the seats. We went and bought the seats there at the box office. I didn't
Okay.
buy them in advance, nothing like that online. I figured I'm not paying the fees, dude. We got great seats, a little bit beyond first base, probably about 25 rows up. And it's what's interests me is that I roll up with all my Mets gear on, and the gentleman in the box office says, "Well, do you want to sit here?" I was like, "Fine, fine, fine. Just give me that seat. $64 a ticket. It was great. Wasn't even that expensive." But he put us in a section where it seemed like to me, I said to your mom, the section had to be like 65, 70% Mets fans, which was great. I mean, I think he purposely put us over there because that's where they were putting a lot of the Met fans, which was great because the stadium wasn't close to full. And when the Mets were doing well, the Met chants were extreme.
Hmm.
So it was a good time. Always good time going to see other games. If I go back to that area, I would go back and go to a Padres game. So a lot of people going to Padres games that night. And this same couple, told us that San Diego Padres, their stadium is really a lot of fun.
It's very, very, well received and renowned overall. That Padres Stadium. It's
Yeah,
Petco, right? Is it Petco?
I believe it's a Petco, and I wouldn't mind seeing the chicken, San Diego chicken.
Yeah, I don't know about the chicken. I'm not too hype on that. But yeah, I mean, listen, the Mets, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Angels. Then they lose that first game to the Rockies, and you start to go, oh no.
Yep.
All of
Uh-oh.
a sudden you're outside of the wild card, the Diamondbacks are streaking, and it's like, oh shit, things are going bad. But yeah, as you said, we do have some reinforcements coming. Reed Garrett, Reed Foley, Nunez, all should be back in the next 10 days or so. Okay,
Starling
so
Marte.
Marte on his way back as well. And there's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how we shuffle the bullpen once those guys come back, because we've had a lot of guys step up and pitch well here recently. Both Youngs have pitched well,
Hmm.
and Blackburn, this is his second solid start from
Wow.
Chandler, Arizona, by the way. From
Oh, I didn't know
Chandler.
that.
Yeah, from Chandler, Arizona. This is his second solid start. That looks like a great pickup overall. And yeah, Pete has two bombs today, both over 450 feet.
And a
Both would
single.
have been bombs anywhere, if even not even if it was 430 instead of the 450 that he hit him, in Colorado. So him getting right obviously is super important. As you said, JD Martinez has fallen off a little bit, but he's been sprinkling in some hits here and there.
Hmm.
Lindor, clutch when he needs to be, continues to be fantastic in the field as well. Tyrone Taylor, he's the best fourth outfielder that we've had since like Andy Chavez or some
Oh
shit.
yeah.
He
Oh
just
yeah.
seems like he's always in the middle of something. He's making great running plays, big hits here and there, opposite way.
Great catches.
And yeah. And great running catches in the gaps. And it looks like the Mets are going to it's going to come down to August 22nd through August 29th. We have 4 games against the Padres and then 3 games against the D-backs. I'll be in the house for at least one against the D-backs, hopefully 2, and that's what it's going to come down to for these Mets, man. If we can continue to stay within the Braves are free falling. They just lost 6 in a row.
Yeah.
We're now ahead of the Braves, which at one point the idea of us being ahead of the Braves just seemed impossible. But
Hmm.
now we're ahead of the Braves, and we now go to Seattle for 3. Seattle is scoring less than 4 runs a game, which is second worst only to the White Sox, who I think just lost their 21st in a row.
Mm.
And we
No,
have
they
to go
won
in there.
one. They won one. But
They
then they
were
fired the manager.
Oh, okay. They won their one in India, and then they fired the manager. What's that all about? Why wait till you win one until you fire him? But yeah, they're historically bad this year, and yet Seattle, with a lot of their major players injured, even though they did just bring in some reinforcements, they're hoping to get some of those guys back. We got to jump on them quickly, and we got to figure out a way to score some runs against these guys. It culminates with the game on Sunday Night Baseball, which is the first Sunday Night Baseball game since 2004. I think I heard earlier in Seattle. They
Really?
haven't been there in that long.
Wow.
And so yeah, we got to figure out a way
What was
to
that,
get it
Ken Griffey
done.
Jr.?
Nah,
He wasn't
I
playing
think
then.
Griffey's in Cincinnati by then.
A-Rod?
Maybe A-Rod. Nah, I think A-Rod's in Texas by then. I
Mm,
don't even
I
know.
don't know.
Oh, Jay Buhner or some shit. Who
Jay
knows?
Buhner.
But or King Felix. I bet you it was a King Felix start. That would be my
Yeah.
guess. That would be my guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. We, the hitting with runners in scoring position continues to be like the
Yeah.
bugaboo for this team,
Hmm.
and we struggle with it. Then we get a little bit better. We change up the lineup. We move Pete down to fifth. The thing I like about Mendoza is he doesn't sit on his hands.
Right.
Okay. He gets out
Right.
there, he tries some shit, and we try our best to figure it out. But yeah, would love to see Pete get hot. I saw today with the highlights they showed that Pete had his 2 home runs, and they were saying the last time that a Met had 3 home runs in Colorado was Cespi. That was that year, man. There will never be anything like that year, man.
He was a
I'd never seen
flaming ember.
I've never seen a
Phoenix.
hitter be that just fucking hot for an entire second
Fire.
half of the season. Well, not second half, but after the trade deadline, once we got Cespi, I mean, he was unbelievable, man. Taking huge hacks and sitting fucking lasers all over the field.
Right. Now, back then, they weren't talking about exit velocity, right? Because I'm thinking this, Nick, there were a couple times where I thought this guy was going to break the ball. The way, how hard he hit the fucking ball. I mean, come on. Yeah.
You're right. There was no exit velocity back in 2015 or so, but yeah, Cespi sometimes it
Dude.
seemed like he was at his exit velocity was like 175 miles an hour or some shit like that. He would take
Yeah.
hacks, man. He would
Sweet,
take and just hit
serious
some
hat.
serious lasers sometimes. Sometimes he would get all of it,
Dude.
but there would be some balls where it was like that ball. If it's either going to make a hole in the outfield fence, or it's going to just sneak over. And if you're in the first row, yo, don't miss that ball and have it hit you
Oh.
in a sternum, because you might need CPR after some shit like
Oh,
that.
no, no, no. He could send somebody to the hospital easily. I think he's the reason they put up the netting, went further.
Yeah. Oh man, Sesame. Listen, I don't care how many wild boars he chases or what he does after that. I know that it did not end well. I will always have all the love in my heart for Sesame for
Love
that
Sesame.
2015 run, man, when we got him and he was just fucking red hot, man. Oh, come on. And
Awesome.
that was just an awesome fun summer. The him, the crying Wilmer. I mean, come on. It was all great. It was all great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it done in the World Series that
No.
year, but this year, man, I got a prediction. I got a prediction. I know this is early. I got a prediction. I'm doing it now, not when both teams are hot, but I think I see a Subway Series coming in October.
In the World Series, Mets Yankees.
Yeah, what other series happens in October,
I know, I know. Yeah, because I think you're a little batty right now, but okay.
dude?
Okay.
Ah,
I hope you're right,
you heard it here
at least
first.
on one side. But yeah, that would be great if you were right, you
You
know?
heard it here first. 2024 Subway Series, Mets versus Yankees. I don't know. I don't know why. I
I like
feel
that matchup
I like
for
that
us.
matchup for us as well. But yeah, real quick, I gotta throw this out there. I know I've said this before. I don't want to pile on the guy. He seems like a nice fellow, as you would typically say. Gelbs, man. Gelbs
Why are you so anti-Gelbs? I think Gelbs is
sucks.
okay.
He
He doesn't suck.
sucks.
He's okay.
He sucks.
He's
Shots.
okay, and you're comparing him to Gary Cohen, which is impossible.
No, I'm Gary. Listen, he's clearly no Gary, and I'm not even asking him to be Gary. I'm not even asking him to be Kevin Burkhardt, who was the guy who was in his spot prior, and obviously was very, very good. Burkhardt, you could tell when Burkhardt was like he would be doing something in game, and something would happen, and he would quickly switch and do some play by play real quick, and then go back to talking to somebody about bark in the park and their fucking stupid shits on but like it's like, dude, at the end of the day, man, like, I'm sorry, this guy's not good. Gelbs is not good at it. He's very bad. It's not just the gas and the shit that he says. It's the energy. He's just not good. Shout out to my guy Knickerbocker Banter, who him and I have been going back and forth on Twitter about how shitty Gelbs is. It's just not for him. He's a sideline guy. I don't think he's ever going to be a booth guy. I don't, not definitely not in New York, no chance. But I don't even think he's getting the job for Cincinnati or anything like that. He's just
Wow,
he's good at interviewing former high school coaches and shit like that. But when it comes to play by play, it's just not his bag.
not his bag, baby. I don't dislike him as intensely as you do, and I'm willing to give him more time.
He also, for somebody who works outside during the summer, he looks very like it's not just a pale. It looks he looks like lifeless. Like he's like he's
Oh my God,
like he's
why are
cold or
you
something.
ragging
Like,
on
yo,
this guy so much?
can somebody get Gelb some time? Can we put some baby oil on him or something?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
some
yeah.
bronzer or
Some
something?
sort of liniment.
Yeah,
No, he's all right. He's all
he
right.
looks like one of the monsters or some shit.
Damn. Wow.
He
Eddie
does kind of look
Munster.
like one of the Munsters, Dad. I'm
I
gonna throw up
wouldn't
a
go that
picture of
far.
him as we're saying this. He looks like he could be Eddie Munster all grown up.
No, he doesn't have enough of a widow speak.
I mean, does Gelbs have any widow speak? I gotta pull up a picture of this guy. Dad, what are you talking about? He's got a mad widow speak. Oh, he absolutely is Eddie Munster all grown up. I'm looking at him right now. He looks just like Eddie Munster. Yo, Gelbs. All right, we got somebody. You got to keep the defibrillator close by with Gelbs because he can go. He looks like he can go at any second. But nah, man, I do like him. I like him. I like him overall. I feel bad now. I'm piling on Gelbs. We like you, Gelbs. You're a good guy. Just not for the booth. It's not your thing.
And we love Eddie Munster. I love the Munsters. His little doll Wolfie.
Munster's a little bit before my time, big guy, and
Yes, it
I
is.
think the
You don't know
majority of the
that.
people that listen to this podcast, according to the analytics, will have no idea who the Munsters are. So,
But your kids
if
like the
so,
Munsters.
they do only because I've basically forced it upon them as one of the few things that I can throw on, because
Oh, you guys
and
watch that at home because they watched it here with me.
yeah, the like my TV, the Vizio TV, you know how like the TV has its own like network of different. One of them is 24 hours. the Munsters. That's it.
Really?
There's a Munsters, there's an Adams family, and
Yeah,
there's
I'm
a
out on the Adams
cops.
family.
There's cops and there's fear. Cops and the Fear Factor are the ones that I like to throw on. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there sometimes with kids it's hard to like I can just throw something on and not have to worry about how appropriate it's going to be. So yeah, they've been exposed to some monsters for that reason.
Good stuff. Good wholesome stuff.
Make sure you hit that like, tell all your friends, and subscribe or follow on all platforms. Turn on alerts to make sure that you never miss an episode. New York Jets had a joint practice today with the Washington Redskins. It was a rainy day, so therefore Rodgers sat out the joint practice. They say that they are, looking and planning towards the future. But Tyrod Taylor had a good day. Wilson in the rain with a ton of splash plays. He was able to make catches over the shoulder, across the middle, juke up the whole defense. He looks like he's primed to have just an absolute breakout. I'm a superstar season. What do you want to see in game one of the preseason this Saturday?
Listen, I feel like the whole thing today with Aaron Rodgers not playing, I think it's foolish. Okay, you know me. I think he should play some in the preseason. I
In the
think him
rain?
not playing. Yeah,
Against another team?
yes, yes, Nick. I mean, this is football, man. You can't keep the man in bubble wrap. I don't want the first time he plays to be that opening night. I want him to play in the preseason because he played in the preseason last year. That's not what got him hurt. And you can get hurt at any time in football. I just feel like he should play in the preseason. I think that rain is not a reason not to play. I mean, a couple series maybe. It's rain, Nick. I mean, this is football. It's rain. I don't
It's
understand. What's next?
early, man.
What's
It's
the next reason to not
early.
play? Too much sunshine?
It's
I mean,
it's
come on.
early. We're easing them back in, and especially in these. Whenever there is a joint practice, I'm always nervous about the injuries.
Right.
That was the thing today that I was like, hey, we got out of this with no injuries. We're seeing, Atlanta just lost this guy Moore for the season, in a joint practice, and things like that can obviously happen. And I totally get why when you have your first joint practice, the conditions are a little bit weird, and you say, you know what? Just why he's not playing this Saturday. We know that there's no reason to test this guy. It's not like he has anything to prove. The only thing that he possibly has to prove is to himself physically. And I
If
do understand you wanting him to play in the preseason. I somewhat agree with that, but I wouldn't be terribly upset if the Jets did decide to hold him out for the entire preseason. And I really think the only thing to be gained from him playing in the preseason is maybe, like I said, personally, him having some confidence that he's going to be okay. Getting that first hit, as they like to say. But if he doesn't play the entire preseason, and he doesn't play, in any of these joint practices, I'm okay with that.
I think if he doesn't, if all that happens, he doesn't play in any of that. Expect a lot of false starts for at least the first week.
Hmm.
Because you have to get used to a quarterback's cadence, and you can't tell me that you get that same experience in practice as you will in a live game because there's really somebody across from you that's firing off. That's definitely different. That it just cannot be the same in practice. It just can't. Um, the other thing I heard somebody say, which makes sense, why you want your first team offense and your first team defense to play somewhat in the preseason, which they will, except for maybe Rodgers, is that you need guys to understand and feel real consequences for mistakes. In practices, you false start, you do stuff like that, it sucks, but then you move on. It used to be back in the day, kids in school and stuff like that. If there was a false start, everybody was doing push-ups or something like that. I don't think they do that so much in the pros. I don't know, but there needs to be real consequences, like a penalty. I mean, I think that's what preseason's for. I do think Rodgers needs to play. I would play. I mean, look, man, I get it that he's coming off injury and all that, and that's the issue. But you got guys like Patrick Mahomes who are about to play like the first half of the first game. You know, you cannot tell me if he does that for a game or two that he will not be more prepared than our quarterback.
He's also half his age.
I get it, and I get it, Nick. We need to be careful, but that to me doesn't mean you keep him in a porcelain dish till that day and then let him out. It doesn't work. I don't think that works. I don't think that's a good idea. But you know what? Smarter minds than me think it is a good idea. We'll see. And listen, if he gets hurt early, that doesn't mean I was right. There's no exact science about this, so we'll see.
A lot of quarterbacks who are not as old as him and are not coming off of a catastrophic injury routinely don't play at all during preseason. That's just that's just the way that some organizations
At
decide to
all,
play
who are
it.
quarterback? Do
That's
we?
that. Right off the top of my head,
Okay.
I can't tell you, but I know for a fact that that's definitely happened in the last few years, and people have had issue with it. Some have, some don't. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like I said, I would like to see him play for all the reasons you just said, but if he doesn't, I'm not gonna get too concerned about it. A couple more Jets notes. Um, you have Hassan Reddick is still holding out. Not a lot of news coming out from that. Supposedly, we don't want to negotiate with him until he comes to camp. I've heard some people say you got till about the 15th of this month, which is a week away from today, where if things still aren't getting done by that point, people start to really get nervous. Mike Williams activated. Supposedly, the starting offensive line looked great today against the Redskins. We're really pushing them around. I also read a note that our defense absolutely dominated. Lazard and Corley both had solid days. And
Mm,
as we said before, no injuries.
no injuries. That's what you want to hear. The Hassan Reddick thing. Um, more and more, I read some old quotes that Hassan Reddick said back then that, yeah, me, I play ball, I'll be there and all that, which obviously was bullshit. But I'm convinced, and I was hearing some other guys talk about this, that, maybe Joe Douglas shouldn't have been as trusting. But Joe Douglas has been a good GM up to this point. Maybe he shouldn't have been as trusted, but clearly Hassan Reddick and his agent said to them, yeah, we'll be there. We'll work it out. Now, everything changed when a guy like Brian Burns is getting $30 million a year. Because they were probably talking numbers loosely. Probably okay, we'll make you 20 this year. So I don't know. But when this guy Brian Burns gets 30 million, now Hassan Reddick don't even want to talk to you unless you're talking about 28, 31 million. So I
Right.
think that may have changed things considerably. It's distressing, man. I mean, the guy's losing a lot of money, and I heard that some of the fines he's getting are not like you can't do away with them, but of course you can make that up with the money you pay him. But Nick, I mean, and I also read where the Jets are going hardline saying, "Yo, dude, we're not trading you," and I agree with that.
Well,
Yo,
no,
we're not trading you.
absolutely not. That would be silly to do
Absolutely
that.
not. We're not trading you.
Unless you could trade him for a second round pick, considering we, traded a
I don't
third to
even
get
want to
him.
trade him for that, Nick. Make his ass come in and play. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, I hope that the Jets are negotiating in good faith and offering him a decent upgrade this year since he's only making 14 million. Um, but man, he's got to work with us too. I mean, he hasn't played for this team. It's not like um, like he's done so much already that we know he's the guy. I mean, I just think like you say, okay, man, you were making 14. We'll give you 20 this year, and if you get 10 sacks, we'll make it 25.
When it
Would he say
comes
no to
to
that?
listen, when it comes to this entire scenario and this entire situation, I realize that he said, that he was going to play. I realized that he said that, he's a guy who plays ball. I sound like Carlton right now with the like. I realized that didn't have enough experience. I
He gave me
realized
the wink.
that, but he gave me the wink and the gun. It's like Hassan Reddick gave us the wink and the gun, and we took him on that. And I honestly think that that's naive to do that. Now, if they had specific conversations with him and like laid out a contract structure like you just detailed where it's like, hey, 20, 25, this blah blah blah, and then now he's saying no, I don't want to do that. But if they just said, hey, Hassan, we'll get it worked out, we just want to know that you're going to come play, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to come play, and they left it at that. I think if that's the case, then that's naive and that's silly, because the guy just left Philly because he wasn't happy with his contract. I don't know why you would think that he was just going to come in and play on that without anything else worked out. And if you didn't, through back channels, kind of at least have a framework worked out, then I think that's silly of them. Now, I did also read today that Will McDonald had his best day of camp. I continue to read that he supposedly is, looking like he's looking to make a level jump, a la a la our guy last year, the come on,
Jermaine Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson. And yeah, man. eh,
You know who else is doing well at that spot, Nick? Clemens. I heard he's doing well.
I know, Dad, but for anything,
You don't
honestly,
believe in Nick? Yeah.
everything about Clemens, until I see him do it on the field during an NFL game in the
Bringing the
regular
bat.
season, I think it's all hyperbole. It's like the lore of this guy is bigger than the actual player that he is. Like, okay, I'm glad so listen, this year, after the year you had last year, I'm glad that this year he didn't come out with, any barbed wire bats and walking around topless or doing any shit like that. Get out there and make an impact on the field. Do some shit that I can see, some quantifiable things on the field, because I'm tired of hearing about this guy and never seeing it.
They're saying, what's his name? Who said it? I think Joe Douglas said he's taken over as being our minister of violence.
He didn't say that.
He did.
He didn't say that.
He did. He did. I'm telling you, because he's taking over from JFM. He did. Joe Douglas said that.
If
Minister
he
of
did
violence.
say that, come on, man. Again, I don't want to see nothing about this dude. It's always, this guy he's like a fucking tall tale. He's like John Henry or some shit. This guy. It's like can you can we actually see like him actually do something violent on the field? Because I'm always hearing about this shit, and he seems like a big guy. He's menacing. He's got the really deep voice. I know he sounds like a monster that's under your bed or some shit. But come on, guy. I hopefully he can contribute this year, but I need to see it.
Big year for Clemens.
Jalen Brunson was named the 36th captain
The cat.
in New York history. He became the first captain since Lance Thomas in 1718 and joins such notable names as Raymond Felton, Eddie Curry, and Malik Rose.
Eddie Curry was team captain?
Yes, Dad, he was team
Oh my
captain. Same
God.
thing. I had the same reaction when I read that shit. Dad,
Oh.
hold on. Before we get into Brunson, we talk about how great that is. Real quick, I gotta hit you with this. At one point, we had a run of team captains. This is consecutive, okay?
Okay.
And I like this first guy. He's one of my favorites. Is like I like him kind of guy, but the fact that he was the captain is somewhat alarming.
Sketch.
Kurt Thomas,
Crazy guy.
Jamal Crawford, Steve Francis, Malik
Steve
Rose
Francis was a champ.
was a
Go
captain.
ahead.
Steve Francis, Malik Rose, Eddie Curry, Chris
That's
Duhan, and then we mix in David Lee, who I'm not too mad at him being the captain. I love David Lee. He's not a great player, but I'm not
that's a
gonna
great
get too mad
guy.
at him. But then after that, it's Raymond Felton.
There's some stabilizers in there. Duhan was a stabilizer, and he was a good player for us. But he didn't. The captain doesn't always have to be the best player. Lance
I,
Thomas was the last captain.
well,
You got to be a
honestly,
glue guy.
Lance Thomas was arguably the best player at that time, which is
Oh God,
that's a
that,
whole nother conversation.
holy
But I
smokes!
mean, and before Lance Thomas, the team captain prior to him was Courtney Lee. Come on, man. What the fuck are we talking about? Mello, Amari. Okay, I got that. But Raymond Felton, Chris Duhan should be the
Was
captain of an
Melo ever
NBA.
captain?
Yes, Mello was in there. Yeah. Mello
And
and
Amari.
Amari. Yeah, they were both. It goes Felton, Amari, Mello, Courtney Lee, Lance Thomas, and now Jalen Brunson. I'm sorry,
Wow,
man. There's those are some tough names on there. I mean,
very
if you
tough.
go back and you look into these great years in the '90s, man, even some of the guys like a guy like Derek Harper, not the best player, but he's a captain. Derek Harper's a captain. I see him being a captain on there.
But he wasn't with
Herb
the
was a
team very
captain.
long. He was a captain.
Herb was a captain.
No, Derek Harper was a captain.
Derek Harper was a captain in between
He was
Charles
on.
Oakley and Herb Williams.
Okay, I didn't know Oak was a captain.
Yeah,
Okay,
Oak
this
was
is kind of
Oak
surly.
was a captain. It goes Oak, Harper. It goes Mark Jackson, Oak. Bill Cartwright was a captain then. Bill Cartwright, Patrick
Ewing
Ewing,
was
Mark
never a
Jackson.
captain.
Yes, Bill Cartwright,
Oh,
Patrick Ewing, Mark Jackson, Charles Oakley, Derek Harper, Herb Williams, Larry Johnson, Allen Houston,
wait a minute.
Marbury, and then we start with that Kurt Thomas run.
But I don't understand why, when Ewing was captain, did they change and go to anybody else?
Clearly, I
For
don't
the
know.
whole time Ewing was there. I mean, why?
It was probably some motivational tactic by Riley.
Right, change it. You're
Some
going to go from
bullshit.
Ewing to Oakley.
Which
to
actually
Kurt
no, it went
Thomas.
from Ewing to Mark Jackson. So and maybe Ewing is captain throughout all that time, and those guys, some of those guys are co-captain. I don't know.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
There's a lot of weird stuff around the NBA with the captain. Like I
Yeah,
personally want to see them. Let's put the C on the jersey. Let's put a C
I'd
on
like that.
Brunson's jersey. I would
Why
love to
not?
get a C on his jersey.
They
And
do enough other advertisement shit on there. Let's go.
and we've never done a C before. We've never done a C
I don't
before.
think they do that at all in the NBA.
No, that's not true. I looked
They
up an
do?
article. They do. There's
Okay,
pictures of
let's go.
Chris Paul when he was on New Orleans. He had the C. I looked it up, and there is quite a few players who have gotten it, but there's no real rhyme or reason to it. I think we need to start that right now. Let's go ahead and let's give Brunson the C.
Let's go.
And Brunson obviously just embodies everything that is New York basketball. He is the clear leader of this team, and you saw all of his teammates coming out and
I saw that.
giving him props for
Good
getting
stuff.
that captain, including Julius Randle.
Yes.
Which I must ask you: do you feel like Brunson being named captain is a slight at all towards Julius?
I wondered if like he might take it that way or anybody. I'm sure there'll be some people who say, "Oh, that's not right," or Julius, blah blah blah. Listen, Brunson deserves to be the captain. Okay, Julius is a very good player, and Julius is smart enough not to take umbrage with that. That would be stupid to get upset with that because you're one of the leaders of the team, dude. But after the year Brunson just had and everything that's going on in that playoff run, you have to understand it. You have to read the room and understand it that it's fine and you're in good standing and let's go into season and let's go. Come on. I mean, you know what? If Brunson comes out, I mean, if Randall comes out and does everything next year that we think he could do, and plays in the postseason like he was doing in the regular season this year, dominate, bully ball, all that stuff, being an emotional leader, strong guy. Um, I think there's a chance, you could see a co-captain situation in the next year or so. I really do.
That I think that if Julius in these next few weeks comes out and he signs that team friendly deal, I think that he could become co-captain then. I think that this whole captain thing with Brunson is about what he does on the floor, but it's about what he does off the floor. And nobody loves Julius as much as me, but even I don't have a problem with Brunson being named captain ahead of him.
Yeah,
Julius is more of a lead by example kind of guy.
right.
I don't, I don't really see Julius being the type of guy who's talking to people and saying, "Hey, man, in game," and like, Julius kind of, he's kind of just a bull in a china shop, both physically and mentally sometimes when it comes
Right.
to in game. And I don't really, I remember reading back in the day that like the type of work he puts in is something that everybody saw and everybody raised their level up to try to get with the type of work. I remember hearing about like Quickly and RJ seeing how wherever they get to in a city, he's always getting up shots after the games and shits like that. And they felt like, okay, if he's doing that, then clearly he's the best player on the team. We need to do that. He does lead by example, but I think it's clear to see that Brunson is the captain of this team. He just is, and
No doubt.
I'm sure that Julius also does not seem like the type of guy to me that would go online and give this guy props and say well deserved if it wasn't something that he actually meant. He doesn't seem like the guy who would do
No,
that for show.
no.
So I take him at his word that he is excited for Brunson, just like everybody else seems to be. And I'm here to tell you, watch Julius just totally change his entire perception of himself by the way that he plays this season. And my prediction is that he's going to come down in the scoring a little bit. He's going to average like 20, 13, and 8. Because the guy has averaged 24, 10, and 4 or 5 for years. And
Hmm.
now Julius is a willing passer. The times where Julius doesn't when he puts his head down and maybe doesn't give up the ball like we would like to see are the times when the team is literally asking him to do that.
Right.
And so I
Team
think
sucks.
that he is going to, especially with the addition of Bridges and the emergence of Brunson, he is going to show the world his entire floor game. Everybody better get their mitts ready to catch those fireballs that are coming. And he, because we know he's going to be up in the air and firing the ball out to guys who, if we can be healthy and we have, OG and Bridges in the corner, Brunson doing his thing, Mitch rolling, and he's gonna be, especially some of that play that he's gonna have with that second unit with guys like DiVincenzo, and you know how he likes to run that two game that he used to run with Bullock back in the 2-man game that he used to run
Hmm.
with Bullock back in the
Hmm.
day. Watch, Julius is about to show everybody his full floor game. He's
That's
hearing
good.
all this chatter. He's working. I saw him the other day in China getting up shots. So he's doing his thing, and I'm just real excited to see what could happen. And I couldn't think of a better guy to be the captain of the Knicks than Jalen Brunson, born to play basketball for this team, for this organization, under this coach, and well deserved. And it'll be it can't get here soon enough, man. And I just saw
No.
the other day that, early October, like October 6th, I think is going to be like the Knicks' first preseason game or some shit like
Yes, I
that.
saw that.
So, yeah, man, it's right around the corner. We got Jets, real games very, very soon. We get to see a little preseason action this weekend. The Mets are coming down the stretch run, and it's been a long time since all three of our teams seem to be in pretty good hands, seem to be teams with very competent rosters overall. And, we'll see how it plays out. But one thing we know is we'll be here for it all.
Absolutely. Listen, I think Julius is going to have a big year. I think it's going to be an interesting season. I hope, I just hope that, like you said, we're going to have to do some load management, keep the injuries at a minimum. And I think that Julius is going to, like you said, I think he's going to change some things with his game. And he's really going to show some people what it's all about this year. I really do. I do believe in Julius, much more than I have. And I don't think Julius is a stupid man. He's been hearing a lot of the things that people have said, and he wants to come in here and prove people wrong. And like you said, a lot of that somewhat not selfish play, but that sort of play was more when, I'm sure the coaches at times were just looking at him in the huddle saying, "Yo, Julius, you got to go. You got to go. We need you, big man." Because there was nothing else. But so now it's his time to shine and pitch in. I think we're going to be just fine.
One thing that you talked about load management, and obviously that's going to be up to Tibbs how he deploys these guys, how he works out and gets everybody minutes, how he keeps everybody fresh. And I think that's something to really look to in this upcoming season is Tibbs. We need you to continue to evolve. We need to run a straight up 10-man rotation. We can't run an eight. Not we need 10, maybe 11. You need to, and we're gonna have to get creative with how we do different things on the offense. We have a lot of different players who can do a lot of different things. We don't typically run a ton of pick and roll compared to other teams. Mikal Bridges is a great pick and roll player, and now
Hmm.
with the type of shooting that we have, the floor should be more open.
Hmm.
Like I said, that 2-man game with Julius and some of the different guards and some of our shooters, everybody from Bridges to Brunson to DiVincenzo, all of that. I think that this is going to be a huge year for Tibbs as well. How he, manipulates the roster as far as minutes overall, which we know
Oh
is
yeah.
the thing that everybody likes to talk about with him, even if it isn't necessarily, accurate or, founded in any sort of truth. But also just, how creative we are on the offensive end and also lineup wise, man. This team, what kind not just the minute distribution, but what type of rotations we have, who do we finish games with? Julius at
Right.
the 5, OG at the 5. I've even heard some of that. It's going to be all interesting
Wow.
to see. I have a lot of, faith in Tibbs always. Both of us are obviously, well entrenched in that Tibbs camp, but I think that it's going to be interesting to see, and hopefully both Tibbs and Julius can prove all the doubters wrong, and we can be galloping down the canyon of heroes come June next year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Big year coming up for the Knicks. I'm waiting to see the schedule come out so we can plan the home and home with the Godfreys from Texas. And yeah, let's get it done. Let's go.
Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Please follow, like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. Really appreciate all the love. You can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.